so, as promised, here I am with Steven, and I'm going to say his last name because, like me, your last name gets said wrong quite often.
Yes, that's true.
So it is Steven Siciliano.
That's right.
That is correct. Awesome. So, Steven, you are the GPM of Flow. Most people are aware of that, but why don't you just take a second and introduce you, the person, Steven. What is it how old are you, where are you from, what do you like to do in your spare time, and how did you end up here on the Flow team?
Sure, absolutely. So I am from Michigan originally. I went to University of Michigan. I'm from a small town. So if you're from Michigan, it's a hand, right? So I'm from up here in Michigan.
Right next to Canada.
No, so Michigan has two parts. So there's this, and then there's the Upper Peninsula.
Okay.
I'm not from the Upper Peninsula. I'm from the Lower Peninsula.
Got it.
Because basically we call this Northern Michigan, and then this doesn't even really.
It's like California.
Yeah.
Northern California is actually like mid California.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
So I've always been very interested in technology. I think it's one of the things I'm definitely passionate about. I wouldn't be here otherwise. So when I initially went to university, I was actually more a physics major. So I started off in physics because I was like, oh, technology, like that's a fad. Nobody's going to want it. Computer science in 20 years.
Wow.
But we need physics in 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Physics will always be there. But I realized very quickly that was incorrect.
Okay.
And that technology will definitely be kind of a lifelong career for me. So
very cool.
That's how I got started. I graduated from university in 2009. So I've been at Microsoft more or less since then. I did have one short stint at a startup.
Okay.
So I left Microsoft to found a company called Metrics Hub that I was focused on helping people build automation in the cloud. And at the time, our initial focus was more around the context of auto-scaling and alerting, giving people visibility into their cloud management. But that company got bought by Microsoft, so that's how
You couldn't escape.
I couldn't escape.
Yeah.
So I came back to Microsoft, and I've been here ever since working on automation-related technologies, and most recently, of course, with Flow for the past 3 years.
You actually were on the Logic Apps team at some point, though,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
So I recently learned that. I did not know that you were actually on the Logic Apps team.
Yes. No, I was at the beginning of Logic Apps and helped to start that product up. And then we realized that this value of building automation is much broader than developers and back-end integration scenarios. It's something that any user could leverage. So we spun it out as Microsoft Flow, and that's what we did.
And here we are.
Here we are. That's right.
2 years and 4 months now, right? Since GA.
GA was October 31st, 2016. So.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. I'm not good at math.
Okay.
I'm not good at
physics guy. The physics
I'm not good at arithmetic.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, cool. So I put some questions out there. I actually let the community know. I was like, hey guys, I'm going to have Steven for 1 hour. And if I could ask him any questions, what should those be? And, no offense to you guys, but a lot of the questions were really boring. And so they're very technically focused and very nuts and bolts, and I feel like you
not boring to me.
Well, you do a lot of that, right? You do a lot of that. So what I've decided we're going to do here is we're going to do half and half. I'm going to ask you some of their technical nuts and bolts questions, but to spice it up, I'm also going to ask you some personal questions in between, just to give people an understanding of you and what your view on things is.
Cool.
Okay, so first things first, we're going to go to the biggest question first because it's actually the one I'm most interested in as well. Tell us your future vision for Flow. Now that's not April release, that's not October release, that's more like 3 to 5 years from now.
Yes.
What does Flow look like in your mind? Where would you like to take it?
So I think when I am excited about working on Flow, it's because of creating this idea of what I call an automation culture, where everybody inside an organization can feel like automation is something to help them do their job better.
Yeah.
Today, there's so many people out there who are just chained to their desks doing rote tasks over and over again. And that's where automation can really come in. And automation is about more than just, hey, I'm going to automatically take a OneDrive file and put it somewhere else. Yep. There's a whole slew of scenarios, and when we think about automation today, it's very discrete. But with a lot of the intelligence capabilities that we have here at Microsoft, there's teams in Microsoft Research that are doing really exciting things around AI. And we're going to be able to bring that into the Flow product and make it smarter and smarter, so that way it can, proactively provide recommendations on how to automate your life and, even do these things automatically. I mean, if you think about the way Cortana has evolved, where I can just speak to Cortana and it can do something on my behalf, those are the types of things that we want to get to with Flow, where it becomes just the natural way for anybody, anywhere, to be like, I should really automate this, and then bam, I can just go get that thing automated and it works. Or even better, Cortana says to you, hey, Clippy style, looks like you're copy and pasting a bunch of stuff, you really should automate this process, and then it can go in and do it for you automatically. So I think really getting to a point where the whole culture of a company can be transformed with automation, that's really what excites me the most. And that's, we already have a lot of stuff today that can do that type of thing, where you get started with basic automation scenarios, and with Flow there's a lot of even enterprise-wide scenarios you can go and automate. But we aren't at a place yet where I think everybody at a company can feel comfortable with automation. So getting Flow to a place where it can really serve those needs is something that I'm very passionate about.
That's awesome. So I recently saw this where Cortana starts popping up and saying oh hey, you said so and such to this person. Would you like to follow up? Right? So that idea, but in workflow. Hey, I noticed that you're doing this same thing over and over again. You should build a flow.
Yep.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
So yeah, I mean, we're nowhere near that today, but I think I would love to see that over the next 3 to 5 years as something that becomes reality.
Okay. So now this next question, we're going to a fun one. Now this is from my friend Sarah. This is especially for her. And so if you woke up tomorrow as a donut, what kind of donut would you be, and why?
This is a great question. I think the problem is I really like donuts, so I'm just going to my favorite donut that I like to eat.
Yes.
Which is, I don't know actually what they're called. They're just the ones with cinnamon sugar. All donuts are circular, I suppose, but not the cream-filled donuts.
Yep.
But the circular ones with cinnamon sugar on top.
Now, is it a full thing with no hole in the middle?
No, it's kind of a relatively bigger one, but there is a hole in the middle.
Okay.
I don't know what the name of that is.
So we're just going to call that a cinnamon sugar classic donut.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And why is it just because it's your favorite?
Well, it's my favorite donut. And also, I mean, it's also not too flashy. I don't consider myself a flashy person, so a classic donut seems right for me.
Okay, I like it. Yes. I guess Sarah, that one's for you. You better thank me later.
Yes.
So that's Sarah's thing. She goes around asking everyone what kind of donut they'd be. So when she heard this opportunity, she had.
What donut are you?
Oh, see, so we had a big debate about this because I decided to be a jelly donut, and the purpose was because I feel like jelly donuts are the most selected donut. Everybody loves a jelly donut. It's going to get eaten.
What kind of jelly?
Probably raspberry.
Okay, that's classic.
It is. It is. But my whole thought process was, as a donut, my goal is to be eaten. And so I want to be the donut that is most selected.
You want to serve your purpose.
I do want to serve my purpose. And so Sarah was upset about that. She's like, no, you don't want to be eaten. I'm like, no, I'm a donut. I do want to be eaten.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I mean, if you're a donut, then what else are you going to do? Just sit there forever?
That's my point. What a sad existence for the donut that doesn't get eaten. You sit there on the shelf watching all the other donuts get eaten, and you just sit there not being eaten.
Eventually be thrown away.
Right, see? So I'd rather be eaten.
Sorry, Sarah, I agree with John.
Yes, okay, all right. Serious question number 2. So, I get a lot of questions on the road about, Logic Apps versus Flow. And now this story has been one way. We have talked about it, if you're in the Azure portal, use Logic Apps. If you are an Office user or a Dynamics user, use Flow. Now, I have already begun spreading the word. This message is changing. But from your perspective, would you tell the people, what is the story now, Logic Apps and Flow?
It's a great question, and this comes up a lot. With Flow and Logic Apps, we really like to talk about the scenario that you're trying to accomplish. So it's less about, am I using Visual Studio or not? Like that can be like a symptom, but really the core question is, am I building a back-end integration? Am I taking data between my various systems, moving it around? Am I doing an enterprise scenario that involves, say, taking a CSV from some system, running it through a bunch of transformations, using B2B technologies like Edifact, and really integrating back-end systems? Or is what I'm doing something that needs to get exposed to users in some way? Am I building an approval process that I need people in my organization to participate in? Am I building processes that need to be exposed to people inside of SharePoint or OneDrive or Dynamics, all these different places? So you can really think of any automation scenario that involves the employees of an organization. That's where Flow comes in. It's about that automation of those enterprise processes as opposed to the back-end integrations that Logic Apps is more focused on.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So that brings our story to a different place now, right? Where now it's really about interaction or not, instead of just where you build things. And so I think that's good. It gives us, I think, a simple way that you had put it a while back was DPA, like digital process automation, versus back-end integration, right? And so that's pretty much what you just said, summed up into simple terms.
That's right.
Yeah, and so for you guys out there who may have been wondering and who may have heard us speak about this before, just know that our story is changing on this now, and so what Steven just said, that's really our position moving forward on Flow and Logic Apps.
Yeah, and I think the biggest misconception that I want to make sure isn't out there is Flow is not a non-enterprise version of Logic Apps. A lot of people will say, oh, Logic Apps is the enterprise version of Flow. It's like, no, that's completely incorrect because Flow is an enterprise offering. Yeah. I mean, we are also an offering that any user can go and set up a template in 30 seconds. But we also have rich application lifecycle management. We have analytics, we have governance, we have all the things that are required for an enterprise solution, and Flow is an enterprise offering. It's an enterprise offering that enables you to connect with the users in your organization in a way that Azure services are not, right? Yeah. So it's not like one is better than the other. Yeah. They both have very valuable value props. It's just they're different.
Totally. Good. That's good clarification. Appreciate that. Professional. I want to actually touch on something that you mentioned in the previous question, and this actually came up. Several people asked this. What is your vision for the future of ALM with Flow? Versioning, ALM, all that stuff that IT and deployment people are really looking for.
Yeah, it's something that we've been working on a lot very recently. So back in November, we released the ability to include Flow inside of solutions as a part of the common data service. Yep. So this is a really important point because solutions are how anybody who builds in the Power Platform is going to be able to package up their things, move them to a test environment, bring that to production after it's been validated. And these solutions can contain all of the different aspects of what you need. So they can contain data in the common data service, they can contain Power Apps if you're using those. Yep. One of the things we're working on right now is the ability to include custom connectors inside your solutions. So you'll be able to package up a whole solution, validate it, and then move it to production. So that's really the core concept. And there's a whole bunch of deep technology that's actually been built over decades on top of the Dynamics, what has historically been the Dynamics Solution Infra, and now is Common Data Service, which enables things like you can actually check your solutions in the source control. There's command line tools that integrate with like Visual Studio for solution packaging. All this stuff exists if you want to, use GitHub to store your data. You can actually do that. Take your definitions, develop them in a test environment or in a development environment, export that solution, put it in source control, and then use that source control to deploy automatically to a test environment and then to a production environment. And all this is actually enabled by just building on this existing solution infra that's been there for a long time.
Nice. I bet That's actually, I was aware of some of that, but actually not to that extent. So I bet that is news for a lot of people who are listening right now. So that's something we should probably do some follow-up on, maybe a blog or a full document. I think that would be really valuable. Awesome. Okay. Going back over to fun questions here. Tell me one of your favorite memories of your life.
I like to travel a bit. I don't get to travel as much as I want. I'd say part of where that came from is my family, when I was younger, would do these family vacations every summer. And my mom really doesn't like flying, so we would go on road trips. So there were many road trips that I would go on when I was young with my family, and we would drive all the way, drive to Disneyland from Michigan, right? So it's a good drive, or drive to Colorado. Driving through Iowa and Nebraska is just like mind-boggling. Like, it just keeps going, and there's just corn. But these things are fun. It's like you're in a car with I have two brothers and my parents, and so I'd say that's probably one of the more memorable experiences that I have.
Awesome. The two parents and the three brothers. You guys must have drove them crazy.
Yeah.
It was fun. Awesome. Okay. Now, for the last two flow questions, we're actually going to need to change spaces, and we're going to pull out a computer because I want you to actually demo a few things for us.
Sounds great.
When I travel around and people ask me, what is the craziest flow you've ever seen? I always explain, oh my gosh, Steven has built this flow. And I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let you show it. But because I always brag about it, I think we got to show everybody what it is.
Sounds great.